Namaskar. Hello and welcome to episode 450, 450th episode of Daily Global Insights. Joining me is Sree Iyer App. We have been here all the way in this journey. I think we started about 3.5 years ago. Just around the time the 2020 elections were about to start is when we started our streaming. So we congratulate ourselves as well as all of you who have stood with us, by us all these times. And thank you once again, everyone. And I cannot but be very, very humble and thankful to Sree Iyer because he does most of the lifting. I do only the questioning. So let's welcome the great man, Sree Iyer App. Sree Iyer, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and thank you so much, Sree Iyer and Sachin ji and everybody. And thanks to all the viewers who have been part of our kind of the game for 450 episodes. So, this has been going on. As Sree ji rightly said, we started somewhere early 2020 when the US elections commenced. We now have finished 4 years. We are now into the 5th year, 2024. Thank you all, and we look forward to your continued support. Thank you.
Sir, we have a lot of stuff to cover today, and we're going to jump right into it. Can we have the slide deck, please? So, inflation remains unabated as markets rise on AI technology demands. The one company that has been outstanding is NVIDIA. Its ecosystem will grow adjacent to stunning reviews. We are going to be talking about that. Sree Iyer ji, NVIDIA's growth, stunning. The CUDA architecture has really taken off, sir.
It has. I think that there was speculation as to what the revenues could turn out to be. They bumped up by 265%. The earnings went up. The guidance for 2024 and 2025 also looks very, very positive. Based on the demand, is obviously there's not many big players. NVIDIA seems to be the game behind these so-called generative AI and smart AI and ChatGPT. It has all enabled companies such as Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, etc., to power itself. But Sree ji, most important, in its ecosystem, it has carried, as the stocks rose, it carried a number of players within the ecosystem. People like TSMC, to which NVIDIA relies on. Then super microcomputer, or SMC, it is called, and then you have ASML, the UK chip maker. Then you have UK chip maker is ARM, and the ASML is the Dutch one. And then you have the whole, Intel, Broadcom, whole gamut of chips. All of those stocks rose on the back of NVIDIA. But the most important takeaway is, at least it's very clear based on all the numbers, this one particular sector is likely to see positive moments both in 2024 and 2025, insulated from the vagaries of the inflation issue confronting the market, Sree ji.
Thank you, sir. And now Amazon has joined the Dow Industrial 30, I think. Sir, it has pushed out who?
Walgreens announced a 3-for-1 share split. Amazon's, what they call price-weighted index average, is much higher once the Walgreens share split. So naturally, that's not just the one single factor. There's various factors: sentiments, demand, sustained growth over a long period of time. To be in the Dow, you need to have sustained economic growth. Remember, Tesla made its way, and then Tesla got out in the Dow index. So Apple is there, and Amazon is there. Amazon's performance has been super in the last few years, Sree ji. So that's the news. Amazon also shot up. The Dow also shot up by more than 200 points on the back of NVIDIA.
Yes, indeed. And I was, I'm sorry, let's go back. Let me operate the slide deck. Sir, before we go into the Nancy Pelosi statement, I'm sorry, I've lost my trend. Let's go to Nancy Pelosi says she protected Palestinians from the FBI. Could you please unpack this a little bit, sir? This lady never says anything that is easy to understand. I don't think she even understands what she says.
is very controversial. That's the reason why we put it up, because it's just about less than 48 hours ago. Nancy Pelosi has been condemning both Netanyahu as well as the pro-Palestinian supporters. There's a significant amount of Palestinian supporters in her neighborhood or in her constituency. And there's a bunch of protesters who turned up outside her house. And they've been kind of saying that she's the one, and the house under her leadership put Gaza on fire. And this is the reason why Israel got armed and the conflict is going on. She rebutted many of those things, and she basically went on to say that she protected, she turned her, she kind of, turned back on her statement. And she says, we protected from FBI for three reasons. One is, there is an anti kind of Muslim sentiments, and so therefore she wanted to make sure that there's no kind of FBI. Second, she brought 9/11 issues back, and so a whole bunch of issues that she brought back, and justified her statement by saying that what she meant was protecting the Palestinians, but not kind of, enraging against them. But I don't think anybody had anyone would take a word with a pinch of salt, Sree. But this is Nancy Pelosi for you. Remember, she was the House leader for several years.
A few weeks ago, I think a Chinese American lady showed up to protest in front of her house, and I think she told her to go back home, go back to China.
Same thing she said of the Palestinian supporters: get back, get out, don't be here, and don't protest outside my house. You leave. This is a statement, and then she retorted back, recognizing that there was a huge anti-sentiments against her statement, and this is election here. She's a Biden persona, so she doesn't want any adversarial. So I think there's a very strong Arab Muslim community or Arab community in her constituency, Sree, and also in California. So all this played to this controversy of her statement.
Let's move on. Netanyahu says there is no ceasefire at any cost as he continues to bomb terrorists in Lebanon, Gaza, and Syria. Sridharji, now Biden one day says that he supports Netanyahu. Another day he says that no, you must have ceasefire. What is this strategic ambiguity, sir?
I think strategic ambiguity, there are no surprises, has to do with his cognitive imbalances. This is what his own party is saying, that he's cognitively imbalanced. This is one of the reasons why we'll touch on on the next slide. He's got a major problem. So incongruencies and inconsistencies are part of the game. And then he even goes on to say Netanyahu is not against ceasefire. I spoke with him. So we don't know what he spoke, what he comprehended, what he understood, and what he is saying. But most important point here is Netanyahu and his government has been very steadfast. There's no compromise with the terrorists. And if you want to discuss two-state solution, let's first restore harmony before we discuss. And why do you believe? Why do you believe a two-state solution will be a solution to the problem, or will be amplifying and creating a bonfire in Middle East? This is his view, which is shared. These sentiments are shared by a number of kind of analysts, that two-state solution is not a passage. Strangely, Sree, speaker after speaker at the ministerial, I listened to snippets of the ministerial G20 meet in Brazil. Every one of them says, if you have a two-state solution, there will be a sustained and sustainable and lasting peace. And nobody can explain how that will come about, Sree.
And that includes our Dr. Jaishankar too, right?
That includes our Dr. Jaishankar too.
Now let's take a look at what the Houthis have been doing. The Houthis are undeterred as attacks continue. Did Soleimani's death shift focus from Iraq to Yemen? Houthi leader says we will escalate attacks in the Red Sea. Sridharji, already I think 10 ships from 10 Navy ships from India are the ones actually keeping peace right now. The Americans are just defending themselves against these Houthi drones, spending $1 million missiles to shoot down $10,000 drones. We've been saying this also. But what is the end game? I think Biden himself, last episode we talked about this, that he said that we don't think we can win this conflict.
No, I think that if we go back to the map, if we show the map, which is on the next slide, I think, yeah, show the map. So what the Houthis have stated, by the way, DGI was one of the first people to report that all these kind of skirmishes that was happening is led by Iranian Revolutionary Guard, IRGC. We were the first people. And remember, Trump took out Soleimani, and Soleimani was organizing himself in and around Iraq, and it was in Iraq-Iran border he took him out. And what has happened? Silently from that point onwards, they began to build up the capabilities in the Yemen, especially the Houthi-controlled areas, by ships, by land, etc. Now you can see all the different attacks emanating. Now you look at where Iran is and look at its proximity to Arabian Sea as well as the Persian Gulf and also Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. So they are basically, they have the surrogates also in Iraq. They're able to send signals to the Houthis who are right at the most vantageous intersection point to launch the attacks. They have unending supply of various types of rocket launchers, not just merely the drones. So Houthi leader says now they have got 4 target points: Arabian Sea, Gulf of Aden, Red Sea, and he also calls Bab-el-Mandeb. That Bab-el-Mandeb Strait is the small strait which is there in the, you can see from Yemen into, facing Djibouti. So
Yeah.
they are now focused on 4 vantage attack points with no leadership from the world. In the meanwhile, no one is speaking about Houthis, but somehow they feel that the problem of two-state solution in Palestine, Israel, is a resolution to the problem. This is the reason why many analysts believe that this is the cusp of a wildfire in Middle East, because nothing has been done to contain either Iran or nothing has been done to contain Houthis. Remember, go back in time. Again, we mentioned this point. How did Hamas get into this? Post-Biden takeover, the former Obama team did 3 things. They said, we need to start dialogue with Iran. So they started the Iran dialogue on nuclear program, number 1. Number 2, very similar to Taliban, they allowed Hamas to operate from Qatar, and they said it would be useful for them to engage in a dialogue. Number 2, that turned out to be probably a precipice. Number 3, the world lost sight of what was going on in Yemen and what is the significant amount of military development that was taking place amongst the Houthis. No one wants to talk about it. This is the precipice. This is not Iran attacking. This is not, the attacks from Lebanon, but attacks from Lebanon and attacks from Jordan or attacks from Syria or attacks from within Palestine is only the tip in terms of localized, but the main thrust of economic stoppage is happening from the Yemenis territory controlled by the Houthis.
Thank you, sir. Let's now take a look at how are Biden's numbers looking at the polls. 70% say Biden is too old and unfit for another term. This is becoming bigger and bigger. The crescendo of sound of anti-Biden people is going up. At what point is Biden going to say, oh my God, in 10 people, 7 don't want me, so therefore I'm going to step down? Is this also play by the Obama team, sir?
I think Biden is not going to step down, Sree, you know it. And Biden, there was enough kind of anecdotes given by you, enough hints given by you in the last DGI. I think people started to draw their own conclusions. I think Biden may not even know he was not in the ballot by the time he comes to know about it. But I believe by August, we will probably have a new Democratic candidate contesting the polls.
When is the Democratic convention, sir?
Somewhere around that August-September timeframe, G.
Okay. Now we have some breaking news. 7.3 million illegals have come into the United States, and this number is more than the combined population of 36 of the 50 states that make up United States of America. Sir, I am completely speechless. Take it away, sir.
Well, I think we have been hitting away and hitting away and hitting away that the illegal immigration is going to be. We'll talk about another point in the next slide. We have been saying this for 3 years. People thought, this is sounds like a broken record. Repeat, 7.3 million. So we have all types of illegal activity happening around the urban centers. And many of these people who are engaged in these activities are from criminal gangs from places like Mexico, Haiti, Venezuela, and so on. So where did these people come from? They're not from United States. They're all illegals making into the country. And we covered this in the last report. In the last report, we are also beginning to hear that many of the Chinese are coming in. They are not the people who are impacted. Gordon Chang, who is a Chinese kind of an analyst in the United States, is saying many of these people are well-armed, well-trained ex-PLA or current PLA people being made to come in to create enough problems within the United States.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, I'm going to be doing a monologue at 9:30 p.m. tonight, looking at the strange mystery, the mystery behind the death of Angela Chow, the sister of Chow. What's the name? What Chow is he, sir? Caroline Chow? No, I'm missing something.
No, I don't know.
Pauline Chow, right? Mitch McConnell's wife.
Mitch McConnell's wife is Pauline. Yes.
Yeah. Pauline Chow. Angela Chow is the sister of Pauline Chow, and there were two stories as to how she died. One said that she was at a traffic stop and a runaway truck came and hit her, and that's how she died. But the different story, which I believe to be the truth, is now beginning to take hold. And I'm going to talk about all this at 9:30. Do tune in. Very, very disturbing. I have been very clear. Mitch McConnell has to go. Dianne Feinstein, oh my God, she died finally. She wouldn't go. Nancy Pelosi, same thing. One other congresswoman is actually standing down this 2024 election, and I'm hoping and praying my good friend Rishi Kumar will win that congressional district. Then I'll have a really, really good friend. And not that other Indian Americans are not my friend, but Rishi and I go back a ways. I mean, we are practically neighbors. And I'm hoping that he will become the congressman. And again, he's also a Democrat. Like I said, I'm an independent. I like everybody as long as they are pro-Sanatani. That's my yardstick. All right. So, did Biden administration hide illegal immigrant files from the House Committee to mask criminal records? Sir, who in their right mind would allow thousands of illegals with criminal records? Some of them have, terrorist frame of mind to come in just like that, no checking whatsoever. And now when the House Committee wants to look at it, they are trying to hide that information. What do they gain from this, sir? Do they want to create a 9/11 again inside US?
They don't care. They do not care. Remember, the Democratic House leader who ran the January 6th committee in terms of insurrection investigation said they chose to delete files because they believe Republicans are a national security issue. That's why they chose to delete the files. This is on public record. You can go back and check, anybody. Okay. So he said national security. Republicans are national security. Okay, great. So now, you remember when Biden took over, the House and the Senate, both were under the Senate was, both House and Senate were under the Democrats. So they ran the writ. So many people, kids included with criminal records, they were allowed to get in. There was no question of what you call deportation. In fact, they say less than 1% of the people with any kind of record were deported. So all these people are now living within United States. And why does Biden administration to rationally justify this illegal entry is a natural outcome of suffering in those three, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Remember this? This is the reason why Madam Kamala Harris was tasked to address this issue. She's supposed to have visited these countries, and she came back and she also made a statement. If you address the poverty by giving more aid to these countries, there won't be illegals. This is how they played the game, and much of the information which was under their committees was held back. And then once the House changed hands, when the information was sought, the information has been suppressed.
I also have to add one more thing about all this stuff. Viewers, when Trump administration was in the office, they had sanctioned a lot of money for building walls. And I think it was a 20-foot wall, if I remember correctly. A lot of steel was bought. And then you know what happened? The Biden administration came and stopped all of that. You know what happened after that? All that steel that was bought was sold for scrap at 10% of that value. Can you believe? Can you believe it? It's all taxpayer money. Why would these people? This is just, I mean, everything I see, this Biden administration has no business being in the seat of power, in my opinion. And yet, they brazenly try to ride it out. And I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if they win election. It could be dummy one or dummy two, but somebody else is clearly running this administration. I would not be surprised if Trump loses in 2024, because they'll say, well, we tried stopping Trump. We impeached him twice. We tried to frame him in various court cases. We think we bungled it so much that he didn't seem to have been affected by it. We don't know still. There may be some cases where they may get a victory here or there or something like that. But at the end of the day, I have a feeling that 2024 is still outside the reach of the Republicans, just because I don't think the Republicans understand the ways in which the elections are being manipulated. This is my 2 cents, sir. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong if the Republicans come back in 2024, because this nonsense has gone on for too long. I'm sorry, I go on a rant whenever I see this thing. It is so depressing to see this kind of bad management. It takes decades to become what US became in 1945, the world power, the superpower, and then these people are ruining it in just 4 years. Anyway, let's take a look at the next thing that they've done. More than $517 million diverted from COVID programs to fund illegals. Now, the Veteran Administration affairs are targeted. This was supposed to be one of the holy cows, sir, along with Medicare and Medicaid.
So, COVID-19 funds were diverted to pay daily allowances ranging from $3,000 and upwards to, randomly to several of the illegals. They were also given all these transportation and other costs were funded. Now they feel that the Medicare, remember that these people are now going to be given temporary cards, work permits, and they're going to be given Medicare, medical care, health insurance. So what are they doing? They're going to divert funds which is allocated for veteran affairs, for medical. Those funds are going to be diverted to support these illegals. This is the loot and preponderance of kind of activities that unthinkable activities that are taking place, and there is nobody, because the media, the ecosystem, and the advocacy groups are hand in glove with this.
And Taiwan says it has not stepped up its military deployments on frontline islands. Prabowo Subianto takes charge as Indonesia's president, and what can one expect? Let's talk about Taiwan. I thought Taiwan was also getting ready militarily to take it, even if US is lukewarm in its support.
No, I think what has happened is there's been skirmishes. There was a fishing boat which was the Taiwanese boarded a Chinese boat, or the Chinese boarded a Taiwanese boat, and it was repelled. And so China raised a hue and cry saying this occurred in its territory, and Taiwan is saying no, it didn't. These guys mistakenly entered our boat and we threw them out. So therefore, there's no question of we having frontline military deployments to tackle China. These were very proximate. I mean, there's not much difference. 107 miles separates between China and Taiwan. So, and it is a quagmire of plethora of border problems in the East China and Taiwan Strait between Taiwan, Japan, and China, and other kind of what we call as the international maritime borders is a very narrow strip which separates the waters. So in these circumstances, China is upping the ante against Taiwan because it recognizes one more contingent of the House and Senate representatives visited Taiwan, and Taiwan has been given further aid. I remember India and Taiwan also signed an MOU. So there's a lot of activity going on, and China is trying to ramp up the ante, and this is a result of that, Sree.
And Prabowo Subianto takes charge as Indonesia's president, and what can one expect from this new turn of events in Indonesia, sir?
He's Suharto's son, that's number one. Number two, he was ably following Jokowi, and Jokowi's economic success of Indonesia is very well known. But what is concerning people is he's quoted both by the Chinese as well as the US. The US believes it probably knows him better because of the Suharto connection. He comes from army. He was a former defense minister. There's a lot of questions around whether he will run a two-pronged government comprising of defense as well as civilian. Apparently, there's been human rights violations. There's other kinds of issues. Usually these dictators rule with an iron fist. What's also causing concern for some of the people, these are all left-wing mostly, concern is Indonesia is the largest exporter of palm oil, coal, and minerals. Especially the minerals and coal, they are reliant on Indonesia on some of the global climate kind of accords. More coal, more coal, more coal. This climate activists think is a problem. So this is the reason why there is a kind of a rev up. One, he is a dictator. Second, he comes from a dictatorial background. He won at least by a very good margin. Many people think that was manipulation, and I think that's going to be put down. 75% of the 200 million eligible people voted. And so there's some interesting times that lies ahead, given his very intriguing background, Sree.
Thank you, sir. And Russian troops will march further into Ukraine, taking the southern city of Odessa, and might even one day push on to the capital city, Kiev. Sir, where things stand, as far as I can remember, last episode we talked about this. This was one region in Donbass, which is what Russia reclaimed back. So who's making this statement, sir?
Medvedev, the Russian Prime Minister. So he's making the. So it's a game of what shall I say? Upping the ante, and it's a game of rhetoric. It's a game of making statements. It's not that Russia is in a fine economic situation, nor it has got enormous amount of supplies behind it. But right now, Ukraine is facing the music in terms of aid. Aid is held up, except for the European Union, which passed the aid. Many countries have bolstered and said they would support infrastructure. The question is, we discussed it in last DGI, what part of Ukraine will remain for all this to flow through, Sree?
Thank you, sir. And now India's economic prospects appear bright and expect to cross 7% GDP in fiscal year 2025. There is a strong statement that Minister Dr. Jaishankar made at the recent summit. I think it was I don't remember exactly, in Munich. He said that your view of China is different to mine, and my view of Russia is different to yours. So Europeans are really being given a talking to, sir.
Well, there have been, and this is at what they call as the Munich Security Conference, which is held biannually. So many countries, including China, participate at this event. Germany conducts it, and the objective is to make sure that there is dialogue and participation to look at broad security issues. I think he's obviously the left wing, which has been focusing its attention on India, most notably India's strategic imprint towards Russia. And he has spared no words in saying, don't keep on talking about my strategic partnership with Russia. You guys, he let go a number of things which rattled the cage of some. It's mostly the journalists. It's the journalists who have been fed this, so because they can ask the politicians. Tony Blinken will not ask the question. In fact, Tony Blinken was sitting with him when this question was posed, and he said, Tony, why not you answer the question? So Tony said, no, Dr. J, you answer the question. So this is how it went. So he went on his rampage. He says, Russia has done no harm to us. He went on to say, what harm Russia has done to us? So why should we take a different position? So they can't argue. Both Dr. Hardeep Puri, who runs the energy kind of ministry, both him and Jaishankar have repeatedly asserted what is the amount of oil in relative terms that they buy from Russia relative to what Europeans were doing not too long ago. So I think that this is a very strong statement, and it shows the assertive nature where India stands in terms of the diplomacy is concerned. This is just a political, I would call, humor.
And Indian Navy is set to receive over 200 BrahMos missiles. India-China border talks conclude with no progress, and this is no surprise. In fact, some people joke that why are we even wasting time, having cashews and biscuits, 2 days of discussion where nothing really of substance come out. But some people tell us that India is slowly pushing China back and back and back and back, and telling them even the land grab that they did in 1993 is now part of the discussion. So that is claimed as a victory. I don't know what it is, but I will leave you to explain what exactly happens at these meetings, sir. First of all, these BrahMos missiles, this also shows that Indian Navy is getting ready for the next stage in the conflict, especially given what we saw from the Houthis, sir.
Well, I think that it's very clear that they're building their what they call defensive offense capabilities. So this will be both what you call land-based, as well as now they got all three: land, air, and navy. So all three formats, the BrahMos missiles are being equipped and the BrahMos missiles are being loaded. Remember, Philippines has got mobile launchers. They'll be getting their supplies in March. I think Taiwan is also likely to get, that will kind of inflame possibly the situation. Thailand is also in discussions. So it's very interesting in terms of how India is building up its offensive capabilities, recognizing the challenge it confronts. There's only one thing on this border discussion. I'm hearing, Shriji, I mean, I know you have many expert pundits with Indian Army credentials, but what I'm hearing is that in Bhutan, that there is discussion going on between, they have occupied some of the land in Bhutan, especially the sensitive area, which is proximus to the Bhutanese, and they're trying to use that giving away the land as a negotiating point to get territory in Doklam. I don't know what the story is, but this is the snippets. So China is not. So to me, if I kind of lay my hands, I think we already said Senkaku before they go Taiwan. Senkaku would be one, and I believe this Doklam and Tawang and the Bhutan area would be another kind of fission point, Sriji, in terms of before they do anything. That is why they're playing the game in terms of saying let's have cookies and cashews and tea and continue the dialogue while they do this. Rest of the terrain, as probably as you rightly kind of observed, India is pushing. My belief is that there will be a battle and it will be quite brutal, but I think India will prevail.
Sam Kumar, thank you so much for clarifying that. I was struggling. It was Elaine Chow. That is correct. And as far as to Prabhu is a former son-in-law, not son of Suharto. Sridharji, we may have to double check that part.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And that's very good that we are correcting ourselves even in the same episode. So that brings us to a close of today's Daily Global Insights. Thank you once again, Sridhar ji. It was a wonderful, useful 34 odd minutes. And viewers, please come back at 9:30. We're going to talk more about Angela Chow's death and who is getting their arms twisted. I say who because it's more than one person, in my opinion. You'll get to know all about that. And Sridhar ji, we'll be back again next Tuesday.
Correct. We'll be back on next Tuesday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Namaskar. Thank you so much, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you.